Thank you for listening to this podcast from TRE, Talk Radio Europe, your voice in Spain and around the world. For more information, please visit tre.radio.
TRE in the afternoon. Presented by Hannah Murray.
Good afternoon. It's just coming up to 5:10. You are listening to Men Talk. With me in the studio today is Mark Wilkins, Fraser Sharp and Hedley Smith. Hello.
Hello.
Hello, hello, hello.
Good afternoon.
Thank you all for coming in. If you are listening at home and you want to get involved, you can. Here's how.
To contact TRE, please call 952 78 4000. Email studio@tre.radio. Send us a WhatsApp on +34 645 99 67 95.
What a beautiful day, so wonderful life.
Now, I noticed, Mark, that you had a bit of a rant on Facebook earlier this week to do with supermarket trolleys. So I thought, yes, let's discuss. Let's get them on the radio. Let's discuss.
Listen, you give me a platform, I'm going to go for it. Okay, look, whenever I go... Okay, other supermarkets exist, but I really like Mercadona. Okay,
yeah, fair
just
enough.
fill my basket. That's good.
Same, yeah.
The point being is that every time I go into the supermarket and I'm trying to get into one of those relatively small parking spaces, there is either a bigger or a smaller trolley occupying that space. So I just happened to take a picture of the one in San Pedro the other day, which looked like a deserted supermarket car park with about 30 trolleys sprinkled along the bays.
Yeah.
And I happened to say at the time, I've seen this before where people have said, you know, I've never seen it in the rule book that talks about how to become a billionaire, that you should really be thoughtless and leave your trolleys lying around. But I just thought, you know, it's not that difficult to just, when you finished stacking your stuff in the back of your car. And obviously supermarkets are a whole nonsense anyway, because they drive lots of stuff to the supermarket to put it on shelves for us to put it in baskets, to then put it in the boots of our cars and drive that home. But the point really is that it makes everybody's life that much easier if you remember, when you finish doing your shopping, to put the trolley back. It seems just either laziness or selfishness, or it just looks a mess as well. But then somebody very brightly on Facebook said, but you know the reason for this is because you don't have to put a coin in the trolley in the supermarket, therefore you don't have to go back and put it back.
Yes, people don't have that monetary reason.
For 50 cents or €1, is that going to bother them?
Well,
I've also noticed this trend. I don't shop at Mercadona. I shop at a store with yellow and blue insignia, not to be named on this list.
Ryanair.
To the extent that they've now started putting signs up in front of the parking bays to put your trolley back, because I think this is an increasing and worrying trend, symbolising probably the destruction of society.
We can probably get an EU grant to study the context.
Have you ever seen that Michael McIntyre sketch when he does the thing about people who go to Waitrose? Have you seen it? And they do the Waitrose push, as he calls it, because they look at it and they go, because people who shop at Waitrose normally have more money, and they go €1 and just go poof, and just push it across the car park because they cannot be bothered to go and get it. And yet all the people from Aldi jump out the bushes and nick the €1 and put it back for them, you know.
Oh, brilliant.
I do find it funny how you do what you like with the trolley, which is metal and, you know, obviously worth a bit, but if you try and take one of those little black plastic pulley-alongs out of the store, you get rugby tackled to the ground.
Oh, really? They don't like that?
Or in the Aldi, if you take one of the little trolleys and you put it too close to the door on the way down to the car park, that lock on the front wheel activates. So you're then scraping the floor going down.
The lock of shame.
I think they should just bring back the €1 thing. I mean, you know, they've all scrapped it a bit, haven't they? The thing, but there's a reason, because people are just lazy. In general,
I sound like a shopping junkie, and I am. But if you go into Alcampo, you can actually go to the little customer service desk if you haven't got €1, and who has change now anyway, and they'll give you a little ficha, a little red thing that you put in your. So you could just throw that away because it's a piece of plastic, so you can still leave it in the middle of the road. But you can't there because it's all quite orderly parking.
Why don't they have a member of staff walking around the car park and
staff?
Yeah, yeah,
paying someone. I have to say, I mean, I totally agree with you. If someone's left their trolley in the way of a parking space, that is not okay. But I love it if a little trolley fairy has left me a trolley in the gap between the two parking spaces, so I don't need to walk all the way to the thing. And on my way towards the supermarket, I can just pick up a trolley on my way, and I leave my trolley in the same place.
Okay.
And I think someone will be pleased of that.
So you choose your parking space given the proximity to an abandoned trolley?
No. I'll park where there's space, and then I'll get out the car and go, is there a trolley between here and the supermarket, to avoid me walking? I mean, it's a tiny thing, but it's just a nice little convenient. Someone's
Hannah,
left a trolley there.
I'm really regretting posting that. It's just I'll get the delete button going now. It's like,
No, I it actually makes me smile. I think it's a trolley fairy that's left me and I literally went shopping this morning and I was thinking of you because I knew you were coming on today, and I picked up a trolley conveniently left in between two parking spaces, and I did my shopping.
You're just encouraging them.
Not in a parking space. Not in a parking space.
But what about when the wind blows and it just kind of pushes it right into the middle of the space?
Exactly.
Oh, that's not okay. But I'm underground, so there isn't any wind. So that's okay. I wouldn't do it outside. I'd only do it
only.
She's got her own rules, hasn't she?
Yeah.
I think it's quite nice, but not in the way of a parking space. That's annoying. If you actually have to get out the car to move a trolley to park your car, that would annoy me.
Well, I want to see the lights light up with people inquiring on this front. So are we sort of in the room? Are we sort of 50-50 in favour of making sure that you put it back in the car park in the correct place for trolleys, or just leaving it there? Because what you're saying is the trolley ferry?
Trolley ferry,
The trolley ferry. You're relying on the trolley ferry to grant you your wish.
Yeah.
And would rather go to the thing and pull it.
Yes, I think as Brett's a sense of order is required here. Trolley should be in the right place, and that's being maintained at all times.
Easily 50-50. Come on, people.
Okay, there's an article here that we discussed on Women Talk last week, but I thought I'd save it for you because it's about men and men's shoes. And I have to say, for the record, I disagree with this article and the woman who's written it. She's very against men's sandals. She said all men's summer shoes should be banned. She finds them offensive, etc., etc. And my first reaction, to be honest, was if a man had written an article going this hard on a woman's item of clothing, like sandals, for example, we would be up in arms. We'd be like, how dare this man say that women shouldn't wear sandals because they're not attractive? They're comfy. And when it's hot outside, you don't necessarily want to cover your feet up. So if men want to wear sandals, I say good for them.
So if we remain stumm now and we say nothing, that's the difference between the sexes, isn't it? We could give a... No, it's not true. You cannot wear sandals with long trousers, period.
Okay.
Birkenstocks are a religious conversion. They are something that everybody, as you arrive in Spain, you're issued with them at the airport. And you're then required to wear them the whole time during your vacation, or if you're going to stay for longer, the whole time you live here, during the summer. Mm-hmm. Wearing them outside the months of, let's say, September to March... You should be going to jail for that.
That's not okay.
That's not okay.
Okay.
But otherwise, flip-flops are the one thing that I have them around the pool, happy around the pool. Mm-hmm. Obviously, you can't drive in them. You can't really walk in them. If you're going to go to the spa, that's probably the only other place you could use them. But
if you were doing some kind of walking, if you were I don't know, going to a local town for the day, and you knew that you'd be having a walk along the Paseo, maybe walking somewhere for lunch, and it was hot, and you didn't want to wear trainers, would you wear comfortable sandals? This kind of strappy type thing?
No, they're pretty ugly.
No,
I would not wear them.
They're bad.
Not fans. Okay.
They're really bad.
Okay.
Where did they find those to criticise them? Which shop should we avoid?
Well, so are you not sandal people?
I struggle with sandals, to be honest. It's not a good look.
Same. I find just in the summer as well, I always feel other people look better than me. Their footwear always looks better than me. Whatever I wear, I just feel, outdone by others.
Just sit down on the couch. We've got some words for you in a minute. There's nothing. I really like Birkenstocks. I think there are other shoes available, I'm sure that. But Birkenstocks are really comfortable. But you don't wear them with trousers. You wear them with shorts.
Yeah. Okay. Fair enough. There is...
Nice shoes.
Bring back putting money in the trolley, says Lynn from Mallorca.
Yeah,
Go,
I
Lynn.
agree.
Go, Lynn.
Yeah.
Love
On
you,
your
Lynn.
side.
Yeah. Missing you early, Lynn.
Okay, this is about DIY and other things that may make you feel more masculine or manly. Many women might roll their eyes when their partner refuses to read the instructions before starting a task, but doing DIY or completing a project without using the handbook makes blokes feel like real men. There's a couple more examples here. Masculinity boost when they complete a job around the house or garden, carrying all the shopping bags in from the car boot in one run. Or taking control of the barbecue makes them feel more macho.
That's man meets fire. I'm sorry,
different.
that's different.
Okay.
But does it make you feel more masculine? No, not really. I like cooking. I like cooking inside. I like cooking outside. You know, my wife doesn't tend to do the barbecue because it's just messy and, you know, unpleasant. But this whole nonsense about not reading instructions. You know, have you ever been to IKEA? Because you know, in America they say that IKEA is Swedish for divorce. Because if you don't read those instructions,
you get it all wrong.
Game over. But if you've done it once, you can multiply how many times you do it, because we built loads of drawers that went inside cupboards, and they were chest of drawers with 3 drawers in. You do it, we must have done about 15 of them, and it was quite therapeutic after a while.
You start to remember the process.
Does it make me feel more manly? Probably not.
Tell you what, they'll talk about shrinkflation. Have you ever tried to read instructions recently?
That's the other
font
side.
on instructions is just like minuscule. So I think that is one good reason just to abandon them and trust your male instinct.
Yeah, right.
Oh, dear me.
But what about...
I bet Fretz has got tools, hasn't he?
But what about, I mean, they're obviously saying with this, you know, when it comes to making something or fixing something, I'm assuming that they're coming from the point of view of the woman going, can you do this, please, dear? And, you know, the woman feeling a little bit helpless and the man needs to rescue her and all that kind of...
We are constantly threatened as males in our daily lives. in the simple fact that we really have very little that we can do particularly well. So if we're asked
That's not true.
Well, that's what it says here anyway. But if we're asked to do something around the house, I've noticed that I hated DIY when I was younger. I'm now a little bit older, and I've sort of found myself really enjoying both gardening, which I really love, and fixing things around the house. I think I'm less impatient with them than I was.
Right.
And I think that's probably a sign of maturity. Is that a sign of masculinity? Not sure.
Well, it's nice to feel wanted and useful,
Yeah,
I suppose. It
definitely.
comes from that, feeling
Definitely.
useful,
Yeah.
maybe as opposed to manly, being useful.
I've recently invested in a comprehensive toolkit. Yeah, with a trolley type one. You know, that you can pull it along, and I've got all my screwdrivers in there. I've got all my tools. I've got my drills. Honestly, and I love it. It actually makes me feel
Manly.
proper manly.
Have you actually opened it yet?
Yeah, I have actually.
What do you use it for? Hanging a few pictures up?
No, I look at a job and I go, I can do that. I've got the tool. Because if you've got the tool, it's easy, see?
Yeah.
Everything's easy if you've got a tool.
I thought I could feel an aura coming up. Sat down next to you then.
I've just done a bit of DIY before I came here, actually, to be honest. But
really?
yeah, just
What
fixed
did
a few
you do?
things. Oh, it's complicated, you know.
Okay.
Yeah,
Well, I'm a woman. I would understand.
you wouldn't understand. I had to fix some furniture. There you go. But I had all the tools, and it was dead easy. It's when you haven't got the
brilliant.
tools, it's a problem.
Yeah,
you know.
okay.
Once you've got all the tools, you can actually make yourself look really good.
Yeah.
Do you ever watch those films online of somebody building something out of, particularly sort of woodwork? And I remember I did woodwork at school, and I made a bowl. I turned a bowl on a lathe, and I loved that. It was brilliant. But measuring things to get joints to fit and stuff like that, sort of beyond me.
Yeah.
And you see these people on these various pieces on Instagram or whatever, and they've got an entire workshop full of these tools to cut that little hole. They've spent 150 grand to cut that little... They could have gone to IKEA and got the...
Yeah, but they're real men.
Yeah, exactly. But the thrill of doing it yourself, I suppose, you know, going into your lounge and going, I built this cabinet, must be great. If you...
Do you think people actually work in, regular people who are carpenters, do you think they walk into their lounges and go, well, isn't that fantastic, I did that?
Probably not on a daily basis, but they probably think it. There's something to be proud of when you make something, isn't
I
it?
think that's right, but I also think it's probably better to acknowledge that people do things sometimes better than you do, and therefore
Yeah.
get them in to do it.
Yeah, oh, definitely. Are you into DIY, Fraser?
Yes, I am. Well, I'm not into it, but I do enjoy it when a job crops up and it comes to me to fulfill that task.
Yes.
And therefore be the head of the family, the alpha male, unchallenged and unchallengeable.
Have you got... I was going to ask about your tools and it suddenly sounded
Careful.
weird. Have you got a substantial toolkit?
I don't want to, make everyone feel too jealous, but I have a substantial toolkit and I also have a shed to keep it in.
No, he's got a shed.
Oh, dear
Oh, I
me.
think
And there's nothing
he's
else in that
trumped
shed
you,
apart from
Headley.
tools.
Is it a tool
comment.
shed?
It's not specifically a tool shed.
Okay.
It's technically multi-purpose, but,
Yeah.
it's my shed.
It's got a fair tools.
My shed. Like, the rest of the house is not really yours. It's just the shed's yours.
So he's got his
Two times of trouble.
man space.
Fabulous.
Oh,
Fabulous. You
brilliant.
could put a cinema in there, couldn't you?
Oh, the thought.
Where's he going to put his tools?
Sling them, then I use.
Scattered around me as a lie back in my space.
We're going to take a break.
Hannah Murray on TRE in the afternoon.
Good afternoon. You're listening to Men Talk. With me in the studio today is Mark Wilkins, Fraser Sharp and Headley Smith. There's an article here about swearing, so we can talk about swearing without swearing, ideally. That's the plan.
Yes, miss.
As Giles says, what could possibly go wrong? Anyone who has been to a football match lately would have Britain at the top of an international table of swearers, but it turns out we come second to the Americans. So I just wondered think about your relationship with swearing and how that has changed over the years, whether that has changed when you were younger. Did your parents swear? Did you swear in front of your parents? Do you swear more as you've got older? Have you never really been into swearing? All that kind of stuff. Everyone's looking at you.
Well, of course, it's a really interesting thing about the Americans, because Americans don't really swear, they curse. Well, that's what they call
Right,
it.
yeah.
And words that they would regard as curse words, we don't think are that strong. We have some horrible words, some of which, various members of my family, I'm not allowed to say.
Right.
I do say them, but I'm not allowed to say them. But the F word, which I think we all know what that means, it's just like an everyday full stop to some extent. It's not something that I've said it in meetings, I've said it in court. It's been one of those things that it's not a taboo any longer. When we were younger, did our parents take a particular issue? Not really. No, it wasn't something that we generally spent very much time about. But I think we also had.
So did they swear? You swore in front of each other?
Yeah, I don't know. Sort of, probably, yeah, but not. We all kind of. We're now just a mass of humanity, but when I was young and a teenager, we did our own thing and our parents did their thing. And we didn't really have the same kind of level of crossover that we do now.
No.
My eldest daughter's just 30, and we will, in our family WhatsApp group, it's fairly blue. I mean, it's just that's what it is, because there is also that moment where there are very few ways that you can express yourself that aren't as succinct as a swear word. And that's...
It gets to the point,
well,
doesn't
absolutely.
it? Yeah.
I do feel that the art of swearing has kind of been eroded somewhat, though, by just the general frequency of it. In the way it's like people drop it into their sentences almost like as a punctuation mark. And, like swearing came about from Shakespeare's time, and Shakespeare came up with these words which would make your face go into a certain like aggressive shape, which is
Jabberwocky and all that kind of stuff.
And these days, like the way of landing a swear word so it really hits is kind of, I think, it's much more difficult, and I think that's a shame.
But if you look at the whole American rap culture, hip hop, where swearing is the lyric, that's cheapened it in many ways.
Yeah.
And it isn't descriptive. It's gratuitous, and that's sad, because I think you're right. I think that a well-positioned swear word is probably as effective as.
I remember when growing up, you'd get the CDs and vinyls with parental advisory,
lyric.
and they're the ones you wanted because I had the swearing in, right? But these days, like pretty much every track that comes out, especially all the hip hop stuff, is that, and it's just
way more
as well.
Yeah, pop stuff. Loads of female teen pop singers are swearing. I almost every song, when I pick a song of the week every week, and it's always a new song, I have to kind of listen to it or Google to make sure that there's no swearing in it, because every so often I'll play a song by, I don't know, Katy Perry or Pink or whoever and think, oh, this will be fine, without realising that there's swearing in it. And so you have to check.
Don't you love that, though, when you're going, let's pick a shop, Alcampo, you're going around Alcampo, and there's the in-store PA, and there's an Eminem track, and it's not the radio-friendly version.
No.
And you listen to it going, is this really playing like... And of course... our blessed Spanish neighbours, they're not hearing what we're hearing.
No.
But it's quite shocking sometimes.
It is. I remember with my friend picking her son up from school, and he would have been about 8 at the time. And do you remember that song? There were 2 versions. There was Forget You by CeeLo Green, and then there was the FU. And it just in it was Spanish radio that came on, and it was the FU, and it just kept on and on with the word. I mean, it was so bad, and I was like, this is so weird. Like during school hours as well. Clearly they
on a school night.
Yeah, exactly. But no, I do swear, definitely. And a lot of people say to me, how do you not swear on the radio? And it's just one of those things. I just don't. I don't really think about it. It's not something I have to, I mustn't swear.
But you must be a different person off the radio than on. You're performing when you're on the radio, so you're conscious that there is a limit to where you can go. Yeah,
I guess. And I always, not worry necessarily, but sometimes if I'm in a social situation and I'm with people who I haven't socialised with before, and they know me from the radio or, listen to me on the radio, and I might swear, I sometimes worry that they might think, oh, she swears, you know what I mean? Which is kind of silly. But
I don't know how many...
I don't know.
In meeting well-known people, one of the things that's quite odd is the extent to which they're willing to swear in front of you to make them normal. And that's, I'm sure that people don't regard you as a sort of a sailor from Bristol. But the reality is that it's... we started off talking about whether the Americans do it more effectively or better or more than us. Maybe they do. I just think it's a strange little piece in the Daily Mail.
Yes.
I think, just to cap it off, I think the Irish really own...
definitely. Why aren't they up there? Absolutely.
Take a lot of Irish colleagues, and wow, they can really blend those words in on a sentence-by-sentence basis.
Yes. I had an Irish guy on the panel a few weeks ago, and he somehow got away with saying feck, which apparently is okay.
That's okay.
I hope it is, because I've just said it.
It is. Well,
I think that might be a synonym for another swear word.
Yes, I think it might be. We are talking about gardening. This came up last week as well, but I wanted to say, because it's a picture of David Beckham holding up 2 turnips, not sure what they are. Anyway, he apparently loves gardening and is obsessed with growing vegetables and things like that in his garden. So I thought it was an interesting topic to talk about, as to whether it's something you've ever enjoyed, something you've embraced as you got older, or something you've never really cared about. Everyone looks to Mark. I'm looking at Headley.
I don't have a garden. If I had a garden, I might give it a go. But
a window box.
Yeah,
do some herbs.
Yeah,
or
I do a bit of that. Yeah, I tend to every spring sort of do like a little terrace makeover.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, a few little colourful plants and that.
And do you manage to keep them alive?
The last normally is about September, and then that's the end of it. And then, so you could get a few months out of it, certainly. But no, I don't have a garden. I used to have a big garden, but not anymore. Yeah. Not when you come to Spain. Not many people have got gardens, have they?
Yeah.
It's just so hard to keep them alive here. You plant them in the spring, they're just burned away by middle of the summer, aren't they?
Yeah.
You say not many people have gardens, and you're sat next to a guy with a shed. So,
knock that shed down, will you? It's really interesting. There's a new, it's called the Grand Park in Mijas. And it's huge, and it's cost a whole load of money, and everybody's up in arms about spending 27 million building this park. But it is very impressive. But what they said they've put in there is a lot of drought-resistant plants, bushes, trees. And that's the problem, because for the last 3 years in recent history, we basically haven't been able to irrigate. So we've got quite a nice garden that requires quite a lot of upkeep, but both lawns, we just shouldn't have them. It's just, it takes up too much water, but we all do. I think growing David Beckham, it's really strange that the way they keep leaking these little pieces out about David Beckham, because he's like, Mr. Family Guy, isn't he? He's here he is in the garden with Victoria, and she's in her silk, whatever. And it's like, I didn't realise she's older than him, which is quite odd. But also, he's there growing crops because he can't afford to go to Waitrose.
No, I think it's just become a hobby. He obviously enjoes it. Yeah,
has he got no one else better to do than grow vegetables?
Necessity.
I mean, come on. He's a busy man. He's got
a football club to run.
He's got a lot to run. Yeah, my God, he's
living
fashion.
the good life.
Yeah.
We better take a break.
Hannah Murray, TRE in the afternoon.
Good afternoon. You are listening to Men Talk. With me in the studio is Mark Wilkins, Fraser Sharp and Headley Smith. And we have John from Alicante on the line. Hi, John.
Hello, good afternoon.
Good afternoon. I'm fine, thank you. How are you?
I was listening to you talking about the Irish and swearing.
Yes.
And we excuse the word sex because the Gaelic word feck.
Oh, sorry, right? You broke up then. Sorry, say that again. The Gaelic word...
Gaelic word to see is feck. And in the past tense, it's feck.
Oh, I see.
So we use, you see, there was a song that played on Gaelic words a few years ago, and it was another word you might not like, right? And it was ein focal, ga focal, trur focal, el, which is one word, two words, and three words. And it's not what you think it is.
Okay, I believe you.
We're just to get shut down by the Spanish Broadcasting Authority.
Thank you very much, John from Alicante.
No problem.
Thank you. Oh dear, I'm sure he wasn't saying feck then.
You don't obviously have a delay system.
No. He could call
live
up
radio, right?
Yeah, absolutely. Right. Generations of parents have drilled into their children how important I wanted to say this first. Sorry, I had a message from Cookie with a photograph of her gorgeous garden saying husband has just planted peas, cucumbers, cauliflower, padron peppers, loads of stuff, and she's got chickens.
He's not living in a shed, is he?
I'm thinking not.
Sounds like a perfect Sunday lunch there coming up there.
Oh, no.
Can we come round?
Sorry, Cookie, sorry.
That's what will happen to him.
Okay, generations of parents have drilled into their children how important a thank you note is as a sign of good manners. Now it seems that as well as ensuring Granny keeps the presents flowing at Christmas and on birthdays, there is an extra benefit. Researchers reckon that actually writing such a letter can boost mental health, or as the scientists put it, positive expressive writing consistently improves psychological well-being. When was the last time you wrote or received a thank you note?
Wednesday.
No.
Wednesday.
Are you actually serious?
I didn't receive it. I sent it.
You wrote handwritten.
We've got this thing. Right? If you go to dinner at somebody's house,
I was thinking like 20 years, 25. Wednesday. Okay.
If you go to somebody's house, we were in the UK last weekend, so we went to dinner with some friends, and when they've made an effort to do a dinner, it was actually lunch, we will send a thank you note. We won't send an email. We won't send a WhatsApp. From Spain, we send a thank you note because it's the nicest thing to receive.
Yeah.
And whether it's good manners, I don't care whether it's good manners. It's something we like to do, and it's something we've basically encouraged the children to do because
I love that.
Certainly, grannies get a lovely warm buzz off receiving a thank you letter. For their £5 stuck to the inside of an envelope. That's something big for them. And it's, I don't know, I'm not sure it's a question of manners, it possibly is, but it's also just a really nice thing to do. Because it also shows you didn't just text when you got outside and think, oh, that's nice, thanks a lot, bye. You've actually got to think.
Thought about.
Now, admittedly, I didn't write the letter. Or the card. My wife did. But
yeah.
that's because I've got a slightly dodgy right hand. But she wrote the note, and it was lovely and warm and friendly and grateful. And if the Spanish Postal Service gets it to the UK,
yes,
it's always a mystery, it'll be well received.
How nice. And how often do you get thank you notes?
More, physical notes not often, but more on phone.
Yeah. Oh, no, absolutely.
But there's a difference between people not saying thank you at all, which I'm very critical of, because I think if somebody's gone out and they've bought you a present and they've however, they must say thank you.
Yeah.
And that's
after the event.
Yeah, it's how we raise the kids.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, with the likes of WhatsApp and things, what a touching thing that was to send someone a thank you note. Very good. I'm impressed. Are you impressed by that? I'm very impressed.
I went to the new post office in Marbella, and they've done a lovely job with it. It was a €3 stamp.
Wow.
No.
That's brilliant.
God.
But you see, a lot of these things now, I mean, WhatsApp, don't get me started, with like, happy birthdays and stuff, on WhatsApp.
Yeah.
Really? You know what I mean? And like, thank you. Yeah, that's took a lot of it away, but that's a nice touch. I'm impressed. I must do more things like that. Yeah, you've
inspired people, Mark. That's nice.
Very glad.
Fraser, is it something you've...
I guess I'm not a great thanker. I should do it more. I think I'm going to take Mark's lead and maybe do that. I must say that, like, I work in a school, and sometimes at the end of struggling through courses, GCSEs, A-levels with students, one of them will write me a card and say thanks for persevering and getting them where they go. And I really try. I keep all of those, and I find that really touching. I really like it. Yeah.
Is it true once they've left school that you kind of forget who they are? So they'll come back 3, 4, 5 years later, and you'll look straight through them. You won't even know they were there.
Yeah, I've had quite a few times so as my career has progressed, where people have turned up a few years later and said, "Oh, hi, you remember me?" And I'm like, "Oh yeah, of course I remember you." But then sort of make my excuses and move on.
Yeah. I bet that must happen all the time. It must be a weird, I suppose people always say to me, "Oh, you'll never remember me." And for years I was really, really good with names and faces, working on the radio, and meeting and interviewing lots and lots of people, and people would say, "Oh, you don't remember me?" And I'd say, "Yeah, of course I do, it's Sam." "Oh my God, I can't believe you remember me." But I have to say, as the years have gone on, that's happening a bit less. There are sometimes times when people say, "Oh, you interviewed me like 15 years ago," and I'll go, "Oh yeah."
Because you've just done 20 years, haven't you?
Yes.
Yeah.
Unbelievable.
So. Yeah.
And that's a lot of faces and names to remember. Really? Okay. On to books. We have one more outbreak to go, but we're all right. Anthony Horowitz thinks children may no longer have the attention spans to read longer novels. The first book in his best-selling Alex Rider series, Stormbreaker, published in 2000, ran to 256 pages. He says, "I wonder if there's still a large audience for Alex Rider novels, which are long-ish, 300-plus pages. Today, I worry if I would find an audience, because this is all to do with attention spans, to do with social media, to do with smartphones, to do with the way that children's minds are being rewired almost by modern society."
Yeah. I love reading. I really love reading, but I don't spend enough time doing it.
No.
I don't have the... One of the things that sort of, I think the tech kind of takes over, and anybody who knows me knows how much I really adore the tech process. And, just a quick shout out for Malaga tech ecosystem, because it really is becoming one of the most important in the world. But off the back of that, if you buy an ebook or you download one of your advertisers, I think, do sort of speaking books, what you can do is you can put it on double speed to go through the reading in double time. Now, it sounds a bit pixelated and it sounds a bit strange when you listen to it, but you can listen to a book really quickly doing that. And people say that you can get through 5 or 10 books a week just by having that process.
God, I'd find that weird if they're all sounding like chipmunks.
But that's the problem. But if a lot of people, driving to and from work, you put a book in, it's a half an hour journey, you'll probably get through 30 pages.
Oh, definitely.
But I just think that probably with the likes of Mr. Horowitz is that unfortunately the zeitgeist that he's probably trying to capture has long since passed for the kids of today. They're not that interested in that subject matter, I suspect.
That's a shame.
Yeah.
It is a shame. I've really been trying to read more because I obviously host a book show, and I think people think I read a lot more than I do. And people are like, "Oh, you must be reading all the time," and I'm like, "No, I'm doing a million other things. I don't have a lot of spare time where I'm kind of sitting around doing nothing." And I think, I know, I'll pick up a book and relax and read. But I've really been doing a lot more of that recently, and I do have a Kindle. I find it really easy to just download a book and then it's there.
But do you not like a physical book?
I do like a physical book. I've got both, but I do most of my reading in bed in the dark, and my Kindle lights up, so it's easy. That is the time when I don't have anything to do. And it's
have you noticed your eyesight deteriorating? Because if you got the light purely from Kindle, that's going to strain your muscles.
Yeah, no, I haven't actually.
Trust me, I'm a doctor.
Oh, really? I need to be careful with that. Fraser, being a school teacher, do you see children reading less?
Yes, absolutely. I think it's just so hard to ask them to read a 300-page novel and try and get them to enjoy that as much as apps which are just set up and designed by teams of psychologists to give them dopamine hits, at a fast rate, every few seconds, the sort of TikTok style. I think it's happening to us as adults as well. I mean, let's ask the room: how many of us would would relish the idea of watching a 3-hour film?
Yeah, no chance.
That seems to be the problem with most movies at the moment. They're too long.
They're way too long. Yeah. We have a caller on the line. Hello, you're live on TRE.
Miss Hannah, it is I, Giles Brown.
Hello, Giles Brown.
I just got to get involved with this one just quickly, and it's lovely to hear Mark's tones on the radio, by the way. Just quickly, it's the parents. I was brought up in a household that read. We read the Sunday Times car supplement. I always used to do that one, and that got me going. My parents read, especially my mother, and she'd say, "What are you reading at the moment?" Obviously, our lot, we all read. So if your parents read and make time, and I think we have a real problem of dissing our young people because they went through lockdown and had to put up with so much stuff, and there are readers out there, otherwise they wouldn't sell. Even if it's something like getting Harry Potter, got them into reading. I think the guy who's saying the kids aren't reading my books, well, maybe not reading his books, but they are reading books, and there's still a voracious appetite out there for the written word.
Absolutely. Thank you, Giles.
Giles, lovely to hear from you, mate.
It's good to see you too, mate. All right, take care.
Bye-bye. Yeah, it's absolutely true. And the key to getting children into reading is finding their interests. As Giles said, the car supplement and things. If your kids are interested in cars or dinosaurs or football or whatever it might be, buy the annual or buy, magazines, even comics. It doesn't matter.
It's an interesting thing you talk about. Giles talks about the Sunday Times, because I think I was educated by the Sunday Times magazine. There's quite a lot of the stuff that's sort of locked away in my brain came from 25 years of reading colour supplements. However, if you go to the UK and you come back on a Sunday now, you can pick up still the Sunday Times colour supplement, and it's so rich and it's so informed, and it's just most magazines have died, which is a real shame, because they would tend to be smaller articles that which you could digest reasonably quickly. The Sunday Times magazine is also a new edition of the Evening Standard called the London Standard on a Friday night, which is a once-a-week publication now. Again, it's full of just great stuff. And maybe that's... I've always kind of respected my wife because she's a very keen reader, and she reads series of books. So there will be, a particular favourite, and she'll get into, and she reads quickly. And I think she definitely picks up things from that. I think the point about children's devotion to any of the arts, how many kids learn to play music now? How many kids, it's probably an equal number as it ever was, and those who are committed to it and passionate about it get involved, and those that don't.
Well, I think also you got to think with kids, I think, it's a cliche, but which I think it's got some truth in it, that kids today grow up faster. And I think if you look at the sort of televisual and film content that your average 10 to 15-year-old watches, it's a lot more adult than it used to be, a lot more kind of advanced. And then if you then try and get them to read some teen fiction, in inverted commas, there's a big gap between kids' books, because kids read until they get to about 11. Then it falls off a cliff and they stop reading. That's what we find. And I think that maybe it's very difficult to find the material that's going to compete and stimulate them, similar to the kind of stuff they can watch and see online.
Well, there's a whole genre, young adult fiction. I've interviewed a lot of authors who write this, and I always think that it must be very difficult for parents if they're looking to buy books for their kids, because young adult can be, I think it's like 12 to 17, and that's a big age gap. 17-year-olds are going to be a lot more advanced than 12-year-olds, but yet a parent of a 12-year-old could go, oh, young adult fiction, yeah, this is aimed at them. But then there's sex and there's violence and stuff that maybe that 12-year-old or the parents of the 12-year-old don't want them to be reading. So I think there needs to be a bit of research. But there's stuff out there that young adult books are so popular, really, really. All this kind of it's all to do with like dragons and yeah, they're loving it, really, really, because they're making it adult in a kid's world kind of thing.
But do you think some of the things like the Marvel franchise, that books spin off that, so the kids get into the film, they're excited and become thrilled by the visuals of it, and actually maybe want to delve a bit more deeply. And I don't know whether that's knocked on, obviously into a book market. Mm-hmm. I'm reading that books are doing incredibly well.
They are, exactly, particularly young adult genre. So as Giles said, there are definitely kids reading. It's just finding something that they want to read. But I find that myself. I'm not one of those people that once I start a book, I have to finish it. If I'm not into it, I'll keep trying, and then eventually I'll be like, this isn't for me. I've no idea who these people are. Is she the auntie or the daughter? I can't remember. Yeah. But I've started reading a book a week ago, and I'm 75% of the way through, and I'm absolutely loving it. And there's only like 4 characters, which probably helps. So there's no confusion as to who anyone is. And it's great.
Most of the people you interview on your book show, do you get sent the copies of the books beforehand?
Brexit.
Bless you.
We used to. Since Brexit, it's touch and go whether it'll ever arrive. Sometimes it arrives and they want you to pay €20 to get it. Sometimes it doesn't arrive and gets sent back to the people who sent it. Sometimes it just disappears into the ether. So a lot less books since Brexit, unfortunately. The gift that keeps on giving. We have one more ad break.
Hannah Murray, TRE in the afternoon.
Good afternoon. You are listening to Men Talk. We have a minute left. There's an article about school dinners. Do you remember school dinners? Did you like school dinners?
Loved them.
Did you?
I did, yeah.
Same.
Yeah. Mince pie. I always remember mince pie and mash.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. I'm good at pies.
Yeah.
Definitely in Newcastle, anyway.
I love
macaroni
mash.
cheese.
Macaroni cheese, yeah.
I love school dinner. Actually. Macaroni cheese, I was force-fed it as a kid, but now mac and cheese is the new cool thing.
Really?
It's coming full circle, yeah.
Mark, 30 seconds, favourite school dinner?
Well, the second school I was at, my mate Kevin's granny was one of the dinner ladies.
Yeah, so did you get special treatment?
They were a big family, and I was like Mr. Bumble. It was like, I ate far too much. But no, favourite, anything with custard, possibly.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, dear.
As long as it's not lumpy. Can't do lumpy custard. Guys, thank you very much for coming in today. Great fun. Thank you, Mark. Thank you, Fraser. Thank you, Headley. And thank you for you listening at home. Howard Brereton is next with Spain Today. I am off tomorrow because it's Friday, so I'll see you Monday.
You've been listening to a TRE production. If you've enjoyed this programme, there'll be another episode waiting for you next week, right here on this platform, where you can also access our extensive back catalogue of shows and interviews. For more information on our live programming, social media channels and apps, and how to contact Talk Radio Europe, please visit tre.radio.